And I invite you to come into an upright and comfortable sitting position. Very good. So that you can feel comfortable. And just feel if you can swing from side to side when you arrive here, so we're not frozen solids. Finding ourselves in front of our sit bones. And if it's possible to really release the arms, to widen the shoulders at the beginning of the class, maybe closing our eyes. And really direct our attention fully to the contact of our body on the floor. And being aware if it's possible for us to really balance the pelvis as we relax the shoulders. And then I invite you to really drop with all of your consciousness into the contact to the floor and really feel the touch, the equal contact. And then in exchange with your breath, feel that you're slowly opening up this awareness space, a space of awareness from your pelvis into your belly, and slowly widening your presence in your body, so that we are more exploring the spaces that are already present, and then explore how far we can go up and expand there into the ether and airy realms of the body around the heart. And maybe with an exhale, this explored space that we just found can stay as we come back to the floor. And we're just doing this a couple of times so that we can really sense that everything expands and space widens. And then maybe we're feeling that when we inhale, there's not only this bottom-up and top-down movement, but also this expansion to the sides with an inhale, maybe directly underneath our arms. And with an exhale, there is this return to the midline of our body, to the spine. And maybe we can find both dimensions, both axes, as we're breathing. This horizontal widening and this vertical widening and expansion, and this returning to center and to the floor. And maybe for the last few rounds, we can expand the consciousness also to the back of our body and find that we're widening to the front and to the back, so that we are reuniting all three dimensions of our body as we breathe from our pelvis to our cranium, from the center to the outsides, and from front to back. Very good, and we're doing this for 2 more rounds. 1. Shoulders can relax every time we exhale. And last 1. 2. And then allow your breath to flow calmly. Stay with this sense of going into an expansion from the inside out. And we're going to sing the mantra together. And because we can't do this very well on Zoom using call and response, and I invite you to sing or talk the mantra or just listen, whatever is suitable for you. So let's find an exhale together. Stay with your own rhythm of breathing. We inhale and we start. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Hunaptu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you so much. We're bowing to our own life energy and shared source of life. Gather here. Also with the inhale, probably going into the backside of the heart, widening here. And with an exhale, just release all mental pressure. Feeling this deep relaxation and the deep heart of your being. And then with an inhale, just wait until it arises naturally within you, rolling up to a seated position while we meet here with an exhale. Very good. I would like to give you today a mudra, and I'm coming a little bit closer so you can see me better. It's very simple. With our left hand, we are reuniting the tip of our thumb and pinky fingers, and in our right hand, we're putting the tip of our thumb on the second digit of our middle finger close to our index. And this is our mudra for today. Left hand reunites thumbs and pinky, and right hand thumbs on the second digit of the middle finger. Very good. And I invite you, you can stay seated or you can also roll down onto your back. And I would like to read a text to you that belongs to the mudra we're holding, because I think it's very important, especially in the times we're in right now. And I just want you to be really relaxed. As you listen, you can close the eyes and take from the text whatever nourishes you and leave behind what doesn't suit you and doesn't resonate with you. It's about flexibility and dealing with our emotions. And this mudra that we're holding also supports the integration of our heart, so that everything that we do, we can do wholeheartedly. It helps us with our breathing reflex, so it can flow freely and we can beautifully pendulate between inhale and exhale and being in balance. It furthermore strengthens our overall sense of balance, and it strengthens our creative element and our creative energy in the body, which is the water element. Flexibility when we're dealing with our emotions requires that we have a certain distance to them. This enables us that we can look at ourselves and maybe what's happening on the outside without reacting immediately. That creates a little bit more space that enables us to find choice, where we can think about if we are wanting to deal or wanting to set an action, how we wanted to deal with the situation, or how to deal with the situation, or an exclamation mark if we're only taking a conclusion out of this. If you're reacting immediately, we're taking away the possibility from us to really seize for our knowledge and experience what we just lived through. Furthermore, in similar situations, we will probably react the same. That's how our own emotions and also the emotions of others will always have us ending up in the same place. The feeling of stagnation prevails. We are not living anymore, but are being lived, and are being moved by emotions from one place to the next. Living a creative life has become a small spot on a distant horizon. But what actually means to live your life creatively, to live a creative life? To live your life creatively means to deal with a situation well. We're not being attached, but we have enough space or distance and are only acting connected to our calm observation. If our decision in the end has been correct or incorrect isn't a question. Because in any case, this decision will bring us to a new place and not to the same spot that we've been knowing for 20 years or more. The eternal renewal of our experience allows us to correct less over time. Acting in this manner, we thereby can release the connection and attachment to situations, other people, and even ourselves. And with this, I invite you to slowly, maybe with the last exhale or the next exhale, release the mudra. Maybe keeping the eyes closed, no matter if you're in a seated position or on the floor. Maybe just think back to your day and remind yourself of, no matter what's going on the outside right now, that nature is unfolding and is starting to blossom. And I invite you that with you being a human and a part of humanity, that this natural power is in every one of us and is starting to be active again in us. And not to only seize it for ourselves in your own creative process that starts with the choice of our thoughts and emotions without pushing something away. This space where we have a choice of how we want to react. And every day remind yourself that this is a reality that surrounds us. And maybe you can find joy in that if possible. And then sense one more time that you, with this memory of that there is a blossoming power within you, that you can take a deep breath that unfolds all dimensions of your body and renews our potential to blossom. And then with an exhale, feel that we're still right now, in this moment, safe. We are being carried, we're having a healthy body, and we're free to practice. So maybe you can find some gratitude for this nourishment in this moment, and also sensing the security and safety that you're feeling right now on the physical level. And if you're thinking a lot and worrying, the body needs this reassurance of safety and security. So inhale and feel the security and safety in every cell. And with an exhale, if you're seated, allow yourself to bring and reunite your hands and palms back to your heart. And if you're on the floor, just stretch a little bit. Maybe you're yawning if you're enjoying this. And then slowly, in your own time, come back through center, over the side to us, to a seated position. Very good. And then with that, let's start our class. So we want to invite this natural power of blossoming energy into our being. So we're starting in a standing position today. So I want you to find yourself in your room that you're practicing right now, close to a small wall, probably a small space where I can lean against. And I want you to bend the knees, not touching the wall yet, and just hang down for a moment. So if you have a wall, you can place your pelvis on the wall, really almost sitting on the wall. The feet are approximately 1.5 feet distance apart and away from the wall. The knees are probably bent, or you're just trying to do this standing upright without leaning against the wall. And we're bending forward. We're having a really nice connection throughout our feet to the floor. And we can, no matter if you're on the wall or standing freely in space, put our hands on our elbows and can either rest and stand still here or just move a little bit with our breath, or picking up the cues from our body for spontaneous movement that feels fine and helps us to connect to our body. And I'm setting the timer. And no matter if you're on the wall or standing freely in space, I want you to stay connected with your breath and to really release the jaw. Maybe exhaling with an open mouth, savoring also an exhale and the release of pressure that it brings to the body. And try to keep your mind to the contact to the floor and whatever you can find or notice as movement in your body as you're breathing. And we're trying to embrace ourselves where we are right now. No judgment here. And to slowly expand and deepen from this space where we're picking us up today. And releasing whatever arises that we don't need. Very good. Awesome. And it's the end of our first exercise. So when you're on the wall and you're coming up, maybe you want to use your hands on your thighs to come back up. And if you're free in space, allow the knees to bend and slowly roll up, also with relaxed and released shoulders from center, pushing the feet into the floor. And we're meeting, slowly meeting in a standing position. And for the following exercise, it's okay if you're not seeing me. It's just important that you can hear my voice. So I want to bring you with the next exercise into a focused concentration. And it's about finding balance and regulation. So you can make this exercise as hard or as easy as you wish to. We are doing a Rikshasana. And we're starting with the left leg on the floor and the right leg to our inner thigh. and find whatever variation is workable for you. So either your heel on your ankle and the toes on the floor, or your foot on your lower leg, or maybe with the right foot on the inside of your left adductors or thigh, the inside of your left thigh. And no matter what positions you're choosing, I want you to really feeling this drawing to center by activating your glutes and to drawing your sit bones together. So the upper body can really be relaxed as we're practicing here. And it's quite challenging because we're going to do this pose, Rikshasana, the tree pose, for 2 minutes. And we're starting this contact with the floor with our female side, our left side. And that's our receptive side. So I really want you to stay in your center. And that balance is something dynamic. So you will feel the shifting. But I want you to have your awareness and your focus where you can feel the contact to the floor in your left foot. And probably you're realizing that there's a constant change happening. And if you have become aware of this, just let it go, release it, realizing that your body is actually doing this for you. Staying with your center, probably your navel slightly engaged, and returning to your breath. I recommend that you keep your eyes open, your shoulders relaxed, so you can feel probably this 3-dimensional breath. Awesome. And maybe if you feel guided to do this, to sense the breath coming from the floor and going up, from the center to the outside, and from the front to the back. Very good. And then there's the final gong, so don't rush out, stay slow. Slowly turn the right foot and knee forward. And maybe there's a sigh coming as you release the feet. Shift your weight, bending the knees. Yeah. And then return to a seated position. You don't have to sit in front of the screen. If you had to change position and move away from it, but just listen to my voice. I want you to be on your knees and hands and to flex your feet and to slowly allow your pelvis to descend onto your heels for a toe squat. And we're rolling up and coming to a seated position with our tush on our heels. Making sure that the tailbone is drawn to the heel, the pelvis is upright, and the shoulders are grounded. Try to bring your awareness into your plantar fascia, the soles of your feet. And maybe there's a lot of tension there. And maybe you can just allow this tension to be part of your consciousness and to try to relax into it and feeling it release. And of course, we are trying to bring our 3D breathing into this. For 1. If you need to take a break, just feel free. And come forward and release. Hands and knees 2. 3. 4. See if you can really come into a very calm mind. 5. Very good. Awesome. You can sigh, you can moan, you can make any tone as you come forward onto hands and knees. Release your ankles, move your feet, circling them around, maybe releasing also the neck. And maybe really feeling also a deep inhale and exhale and releasing the residue of the tension. And then slowly the movement may cease. We can put the feet back on the floor. Maybe flexing the feet for a moment. Inhaling here, coming into a sloppy half downward dog, and then wandering with the hands with a fluid breath back to our feet and rolling back up to standing. Very good. And you can stay on your mat if you're there, or just shift your position, maybe close to a wall if you need to hold on once in a while. And we're switching to Rikshasana on the other side, so we're this time using our right leg on the floor and our left leg is lifting. And again, choose your position that's suitable for you. Heel on your ankle or your foot on your lower leg, or your left foot on your right inner thigh, hugging the adductors and drawing them to center and up. It's like a push and a counter push that we're accomplishing here, and thereby finding center using polarity. So I invite you that you're in contact with the floor, so we can find the roots through our foot, and also realizing it's a dynamic balance. It's not static, it's not frozen, so we can learn to trust this dynamic balance. And then when there's the consciousness has arrived and we've realized this and we're feeling safe to let this go, we're arriving at center, releasing the arms, the shoulders, the neck, the jaw, activating the glutes more, but still gently. So we're having the sense of a strong center. And then slowly slide into conscious breathing. So maybe in the beginning, we're finding it more calmly as we shift to notice our breathing. And then over time, breathing is just expanding. Very good. Stay with your own rhythm. Also try to sense whatever changes in your body. If there's anything tensing up and you're releasing it again, or if you need to just step to the side and release the pose. And there's the final gong. And maybe you want to sigh again or moan as you're stepping with your left leg to your right. And we're releasing down, bending forward, hanging loose, bending our knees. And you can shift from the front to the back, or just also lifting your toes away from the floor. And then, if you've been away from your mat, slowly return to it. And we're going into the second round of the toe squat, starting out with knees and hands on the floor. And we're trying to open the first acupoint of the kidney meridian, which is on the center, at center of our plantar fascia. And we're tilting our pelvis up, so tailbone points towards our toes. And as we arrive here, we're going back into our conscious 3D breathing, finding expansion with an inhale through all 3 dimensions, and with an exhale staying with the sensation, and maybe with an inhale over the sides, the breath can go up to our armpits, and we're at 3, 4. Very good. And last one, 5. And then slowly, with an active center, release the pose, come forward onto hands and knees, and then bringing your feet with the front side to the floor, and we're coming into Balasana. You can always use a bolster if you feel more comfortable this way. And slowly descend with our forehead to the floor. And feel if there's still tension in the body. And maybe some of you will realize that there is some residue of tension on the front side of your lower legs, on your shins. So, as we breathe, we can, with an exhale, really consciously release our legs here into the floor. And try to direct our attention using the breath with an inhale, widening our shins and the front side of our ankles. This is like a preparatory, preliminary exercise for the next one, where we're doing or physically opening this area with an exercise. So roll back up. I'm just scooting forward a little bit so you see me better. And you're keeping your hands to the sides of our body, outside of the mat probably, or closer to your thighs. Just feel what is suitable for you. Pushing the hands in the floor and lifting our knees off the floor for a front stretch and a front ankle stretch. And I really want you to be okay, that your plantar fascia is not cramping up. So just lift it as high as you can. And the shoulders are firmly connected to your pelvis as we're breathing, and we're at 1. Neck is released. 2. And 3. Awesome. And then slowly have the legs descend. Maybe this moment of awe. And then over the side, come to a seated position. And we're rolling down onto the floor, releasing our back, reuniting our feet in the Baddha Konasana position. And it's like a circuit that we're creating here in knees falling apart. And I just like this image of that this is like the pages of the book of our life. And we're placing one hand on our belly, the other hand on our hearts, and can feel that we're having blank pages in this book and the flexibility to choose how we want to feel these changes. Maybe there's an emptiness that came with the changes that COVID created for you. And I want you to be in contact with you on the emotional level, by having your hand on your heart, and by being in contact with you on the physical level by having your hand on your navel. These are like the 2 centers that we need to feel both levels of our being at the same time. And as soon as you have the feeling you're calm or in contact with whatever has risen, I want you to feel the floor and go into your 3D breathing. Let the floor help you with the feedback of your back unfolding as you inhale. And we're taking 2 more breaths. We are 2 and 3. Very good. And then feel that you've really created a circuit with your feet being together, with your hand that's resting on your navel, with the other hand that's resting on your heart. Our navel in kinesiology always represents choice, and the connection to the heart always represents creative inspiration. And with an exhale, stay in contact, even if we are removing our hands and bringing our legs together, knees to the sky, and then slowly come into Uppanasana, releasing everything. And you can use your hands with your legs, or you can make this movement freely without your arms. Squeeze and massage the lower back. Maybe your head wants to turn gently from side to side. Maybe you can still sense your connection to the floor as you move and breathe. And then allow that the hands are again being placed more gently on to your legs. We're just gathering a little bit of momentum, inhaling here, pushing into the floor probably, and then from center coming back up to a seated position. Very good. And if you have a bolster right next to you, I invite you to use it, but you can do it also if you don't have a bolster. And we're starting with our right leg in an external rotation. So our right knee points to the outside of our body, and our left leg is positioned in a way so that our right foot rests on the top of our left thigh. And our left leg, I'm just turning around so you see me better. You can place your foot in whatever way that allows your knee to be pain-free. So maybe the heel is closer to your sit bone here, or maybe it's further away from your hip. If you need to pad yourself underneath your left knee, feel free. I just want your hip to be okay in the joint, and I want your knee to be okay in the joint. And you can take a bolster or a pillow and slowly lie over your bolster so that there is a slight activation or tension happening on the outside of your left hip, and maybe you want to experiment with the placement of your left hip, so you can push it forward as you inhale, and with an exhale roll it back, and just we're warming up the hip socket itself, just allowing the thigh bone to rotate a little bit in it. And we're just staying fluid in this joint. There's no frozenness. And then I just feel whenever you're moving what is really a nice activation for you, and maybe there's a deepening happening, and you can return your torso more towards the right, placing your forearms on the bolster. Maybe you're just having one arm on the bolster, the other arm on the floor. Just feel free to place your arms whatever way suits you, so your shoulders can be neutral and released. And I'm creating more tension by pushing my left hip forward. And as I'm exhaling, I'm dropping my left hip to the back while keeping the torso very stable. And I want you to do this with awareness and care, so you can stay connected to the sensations that arise in your body. Maybe you want to stabilize your lumbar spine by drawing your navel to the spine. Shoulders are staying wide in front, firmly anchored to the pelvis in the back. We're breathing as we're shifting here. And then slowly inhale one more time. Exhale, slowly releasing the arms, bringing the hands back onto the floor. We're coming up. And just see if you can come into a seated position in deer pose. And probably your hips are not level. That's okay, they can be, but it's the placement of your acetabulum that determines this, so don't worry if they're not. And then feel again, no matter what the contact of your sit bones may be, that you're elongating both sides of your spine. And then with an exhale, allow the left hand to wander more to the left. We're inhaling and lifting our right arm. And with an exhale, we're trying to keep our right sit bone on the floor and opening our side line on the right. We can, if we want to, rotate a little bit towards our right side, lifting the heart more to the ceiling. And with an exhale, we can round the back and maybe even push our right arm away from our body, anchoring the right shoulder. And then with an inhale, we come back up and go into this rotation where the heart lifts to the sky or ceiling in a spiral way of fashion. And then with an exhale, we can push the right arm away over our left knee and really push something. So we're activating the back, staying at center and navel to spine. We're doing this one more time. We're inhaling, expansion, rotation to the right. Sit bone stays firmly anchored on the right side. And with an exhale, we're going into a spiral line and pushing the right arm to the left. Also, the left shoulder is firmly anchored to the pelvis. And then from here, gather and come back up with an inhale to a seated position. Exhale. Allow the right hand to return to the floor. Come fully onto your right side, taking the left hand, aiding the left leg to come forward again. And with the next exhale, step over your right leg. Maybe your leg is coming over your thigh. Some people need to step, it's determined by your tibial length, to place the foot in front of your right lower leg or shin. Just what's important where the placement is of your foot. What's important is that you feel both sit bones on the floor and that you can have your left leg and foot firmly grounded with the inner and outer edges of your foot. Super. So see if you, whatever way you're choosing, if you can lift yourself off the floor, and with an inhale lifting the right arm, and with an exhale we're twisting, turning to our left. You can use the right hand on the outside of your left knee, or also the right elbow on the outside of your left knee. And I still want you to feel that you're working your sit bones into the floor, maybe spreading them, and then without the pelvis moving, see if you can really only rotate from your thoracic spine to the left. And maybe there's a pulsing going on as you're breathing, as you deepen. Maybe your head wants to move. And then as you're seated here, firmly anchored to the floor, I want you to find your 3D breath so you can use all sides of your torso for expansion. The same as we did in the beginning, and we're at 1, 2, always feel free to release your head. And last one, 3. And then from here, Find yourself connected to the floor. Sense your connection to earth. Inhale, lifting the heart, and with an exhale, returning forward. Allow that you're freeing up your left leg, and maybe you can release the right leg underneath it. And we're moving to the other side. So our left leg is now in external rotation. And we're moving to the left side so we can bring our right leg into internal rotation. Just remember that you can pat yourself on the inside of your right knee. You can use anything you like, bolsters, blankets. And we're moving to the other side. Just honor the placement of your hip socket or acetabulum, and if your hips are not level, that's fine. But I want you to keep your left hip anchored. And first we're moving to the side with our lower arm probably on the bolster or on the floor. And we're just moving our right hip forward with an inhale. And with an exhale, we're moving this hip back towards our heel. We can do this a couple of times. So we're getting used to the movement and used to the tension lines that are shifting. So we can feel that we always can pulse with our breath and use that actually in any pose that we're doing, but especially later when we're twisting. And from here we can deepen probably. And maybe use the bolster and pushing it further away from you from us to the back, or having the hands or forearms on the floor. It's your choice, really. And then see how you want to place yourself on this side. So maybe you're using the forearms on the bolster. The main point is I want you to find a line of tension that's flowing from your right knee over the front of the body, of the thigh, to the outside of your right hip, and then maybe the side of your torso to your shoulder. And we're remembering or recalling this shifting with breathing. And feel if you want to change something, if you need more space. And follow also these impulses slowly and with awareness that arise from within, from your own body's intelligence. We're doing this 2 more times. We're inhaling and exhaling, having the shoulders firmly grounded. And inhaling and exhaling. Awesome. So this works on our Gallbladder Meridian. That stands for decision making. So we really want to activate this meridian and to create some space, which ties in with the topic of the class. And we're coming back onto our hands, walking forward, coming into a seated position, firmly anchoring our left sit bone so we can shift over the side and going into Ardama Sindrasana, either having our right foot in front of our left shin or stepping over our knee. And trying in this position to really anchor both hips, both sit bones to the floor. So here it's really important, find a variation with the placement of your foot that's suitable for you. The right hand's on the floor, and with an inhale the left arm rises, and with an exhale we're keeping the sit bone anchored as we twist to our right side. Maybe you want to use your elbow, maybe you want to use your left hand, but I want you to feel this earthing, this grounding, and only rotate from your thoracic spine, keeping the lumbar safe, keeping the iliosacral joint safe as we're turning to our right. And then let's find the 3D breathing again for 1. 2, maybe you want to deepen with an exhale, and sometimes it's helpful to close the eyes to sense the movement from the inside out. And 3, 4, and sometimes we can sense also the impulses that rises from our body a lot better. And 5. Very good. And then slowly find again that Uddiyana, lifting the heart with an inhale, and with an exhale slowly return to center. You can help your right knee with your right hand and help your right ankle with your left hand. And we're coming back into deer pose. Inhaling here and really feeling our left sit bone anchored one more time. Feeling that we are lifting out of the pelvis, drawing our torso or spine up with the help of the floor and the earth. And then slowly the right hand may walk to the right side. The left hip stays firmly grounded. And with an inhale, the left arm rises to the top. And with an exhale, we're going into a side bend. And starting with turning to our right knee, pushing the left arm away, finding this rotation. And then again, maybe feeling this nice lateral line as we're lifting with an inhale the left arm, turning to our left wide collarbones, breathing into our sides, still with our left sit bone on the floor, and then with an exhale we can shift again and turn towards the right without moving the pelvis too much, really working through the torso, through the sidelines, connecting our left shoulder to our left hip. And flowing in that fashion as we're breathing with an inhale, turning with a wide open breathing space to the left, and with an exhale, returning over our right leg, pushing the left arm away, having navel to spine for protection of the lumbar spine. Inhaling, going into expansion, more space between our collarbones. And with an exhale, maybe we deepen by scooting our right hand more towards the right and dragging our left arm to the side without losing connection with our left sit bone. And then from here, slowly come back up again with an inhale, rise into a seated position. And with an exhale, your right hand may grab your right ankle and draw the leg forward. And then slowly extending the legs to the front. Maybe you want to have your knees bent, and we're freeing up our glutes by drawing our sit bones out. Maybe you're having a bolster underneath your knees. Maybe you're having a bolster underneath your pelvis. Both options are totally fine. And just start by shifting from side to side and really creating this wide space for our sit bones so our sacrum is happy and our pelvis is upright. And feel that you can really release the feet. And no matter how you're placed in space, where your pillow might be, I want you to feel that a forward bend that activates the watery line of your creative energy, that really the pelvis is leading the movement as you're tilting forward. So inhale here, and with an exhale, allow the pelvis to really guide the spine as we come forward. You will see how far the movement can go of your pelvis. It really depends on your hamstrings flexibility, thereby the hint of bending the knees if you need to. And you can round forward. And if you're slightly rounded, I invite you to probably use your navel slightly drawn to spine, so you're protecting the lumbar. And if you're arriving in a rounded position, find again a pulsing where you're going into a slight C curve with an inhale, drawing navel to spine. And then with an exhale, see if you can draw your heart forward here. So you're expanding the space between the front side of your hip, your ASISs, and the lower ribs. So we can just bring the energy further up from our pelvis towards the backside of our hearts. And whenever you have the feeling there is no movement that's happening from being able to tilt your pelvis forward, try to see if you can keep your spine mobile and maybe find more extension by focusing on unfolding the torso forward instead just resting in a rounded position. If you need to always support yourself, maybe your head is on a bolster, as you see me doing here, the hands are released. And if there's nothing happening for you, just experiment with bending the knees just a little bit by dragging your heels slightly actively towards your pelvis and then releasing them with an exhale. And I'm starting the timer. So we're still here in this pose for our watery backline that nourishes the wood element for 2 more minutes. And I'm just trying or seeing if I can help you. And also be aware if there's enough space on the backside of your heart. If you're still having capacity to sense where your shoulders are in space, and if you can align them and ground them again to your pelvis. And if there's a lot of tension in the body, just always use an exhale through an open mouth. Yep, and really try to empty your arms so that we're trying to really be passive here and allowing the earth to bring us deeper into this pose. Whenever something is hurting, you feel free to come out of the pose. And if you need to shift in this position, just be aware of shifting is an evasion, evading something, avoiding something, or if it actually can carry you deeper into the pose. If you want to, I invite you to remember the 3 deep breaths. And it's easier to go to the backside of your body if you use a little bit of Uddiyana Bandha, of drawing your navel to the spine with an exhale and keeping it slightly connected as you inhale. And this line that you're working on right now, the backside of your body where our creative power actually is flowing. It's the Bladder Meridian. And it's the yang part of this meridian, so the energy that moves out. And I want you to, before coming out, just remind yourself that there's always space during the day to make a choice. And when you've set this anchor, release the pose, slightly rolling up, opening up through the crown, and then maybe with an exhale, descending to the floor and releasing as you glide down onto the floor into an Ardha Shavasana. And making sure that you really have placed yourself in a straight line and that you can unfold your arms in a way that your collarbones are still wide and they're hovering on the horizontal level over your pelvis. And if it's too much for your lower back, just bending, then bend your knees just a little bit, so not fully with your heels to your sit bones, but with a little bit more space between your sit bones and your heels. And finding your lower back okay, finding your shoulders wide, that the head is free. And then either with slightly bent or straight legs, push both forearms and both hands into the floor and lifting the shoulder girdle off the floor. And with an exhale, maybe you can draw the tailbone, draw towards the tip of your fingers. So you're creating this bow with your chest. And the elbows can really push actively into the floor. And I would like you to feel the breath really ascending towards your collarbones. And the main weight of our body is being carried by the legs or the feet, the pelvis, and our arms. So our head is really free here and has not a lot of weight on it to it. And we're breathing for 1, 2, and 3. Awesome. And then no matter if you're having your legs straight or knees bent, feel that you're pushing with your elbows again forward, so you slowly can have your torso descend onto the floor, head supported, and come back into Ardha Shavasana, where you find yourself in a long straight position, finding contact to the floor and finding your breath. And maybe you can feel for a moment the backside of your heart, the space between your shoulder blades. And sense if there is a nice contact to the floor in the space. Maybe the breath can ascend into the upper back as you inhale, holding the contact. And with an exhale, maybe you want to envision that you can really melt towards the sides as you sink into the floor. And we're still here for 3 long deep breaths. 3 deep breathing if possible. Maybe if the body wants to yawn, just allow it. If something's relaxing or balancing. And 3. Very good. And then stand, no matter if you're having your legs straight or your knees bent. Just feel one more time the backside of your heart with the lower belly engaged. Slowly lifting the right bent leg towards your chest. Exhale here. And then take the other leg to it. We're coming into Uppanasana, second time in this class. Finding center, taking a little bit of movement to slowly roll up. And from here over the side, we're going into the downward dog. We're again finding our presence, our contact to the floor, and can slowly move a little bit just to invigorate the body in a gentle way. And we're breathing for 1. Sensing the floor, the breath. 2. And see if you can really stabilize the pelvis as you move. And maybe also stabilize the forward tilt of your pelvis when you're pushing your heel towards the floor and straightening the back leg or extending the leg, extending the knee, straightening the legs. And then slowly the movement may cease. We can stand with both legs hip width apart. We're lifting with an inhale our right leg back and up. With an exhale, we're pushing knee to chest, shoulder over wrists, turning our or bringing our right leg into external rotation for pigeon. Slowly the left leg is wandering back, and just make sure that you're supporting yourself so that you really can find contact to the floor through your right hip. Maybe you're sitting on something, and then slowly walk your hands forward, coming forward with a straight back. The left leg and also the left foot may completely release into the floor. And I invite you to very consciously, again, with the exercise of the 3D breathing and also the mudra that we practice today, to find a place where you have a little bit of tension happening and to consciously make a choice how you want to deal with this tension. Are we guarding against it, or can we hold it in our consciousness and still find the contact to the floor? And still feel the tension, feel the floor, and continue to breathe. Try the best, to the best of your abilities, whenever you're coming into states of tension, to not be attached, but maybe allow yourself a little bit of space. Maybe it's just for physiological regulation, but we can communicate with our body and just tell our body that we're giving it a break for a moment. Come into 3D breaths. So maybe that your body can feel that you want to very consciously nourish it as a solid base. If our physiology is not online, it's very hard to have a clear headspace. So maybe as an image, you want to picture all the organs in your torso and in your belly can unfold freely and being balanced in the elemental wheel throughout the year. And we're breathing for 1, 2, and 3. And then before coming up, see if the shoulders are connected to the pelvis. If there's a lot of space, the head is really, really relaxed, and we're helping ourselves with the push of one hand and then the other, flexing our left foot, drawing into center with an inhale, and with an exhale, gently and slowly stepping back into downward dog, feet hip width apart, finding the contact to the floor throughout the hands, through the push of your feet, and just sense into your body, feeling the difference between your right and your left side. And maybe you can feel this flushing and this expansion. And maybe you also sense that it really makes a difference in how well you can perceive yourself from the inside out. And we're still breathing for 2, 1. And 2. And then from here we're changing sides. Right leg stays on the floor, left leg rises with an inhale. And with an exhale, we're drawing knee to center, rolling forward, bringing the left leg into an external rotation so that it can gently rest behind our left wrist. Walking our right leg back so our left outer hip can come into contact with the floor or a bolster or a blanket or a block. And we're slowly coming forward in our own time. Just go as far as you feel that there is something happening in the body, that you actually can find some tension. And arrive in your practice of realizing that there is tension happening and that we have the flexibility with what kind of internal emotional state or bhava we are dealing with this. We can push it away, we can guard against it, or we can arrive in a state of acceptance and create some space in this state of tension and still stay with awareness in the state. And by having awareness, are being able to have a choice to do something differently and not go into any automatisms. Wherever you can aid your body with a release, maybe it's the shoulders, maybe it's the jaw, maybe it's the heart lift, just do it. And feel that you can always have control over how much tension you are willing to enter so that you can stay present. Again, find contact through your hands to the floor. Find that whatever is probably activated, the jaw, that it releases. And if the jaw is tensed up, just release it and arrive in your breath. Stay with your own rhythm in 3D. And we're still here for 3 long deep breaths. 1. 2. And 3. And then find yourself at center. As long as we can sense what's going on, we can guide ourselves. And from the center, slowly rise back up onto your hands. Exhale, allow the shoulders to ground. If you have something underneath your hips, just release it so we can fully shift onto our left side, releasing the pose. And reuniting here, as we did in the beginning of the class, in a seated position. Super. See if it's possible one more time to just swing back and forth, finding your balance, finding center, to ground your shoulders, to lift the heart, to release the head. Maybe your eyes want to be closed. And even if we, or especially if we can't resolve all our topics by practicing, we can create a very nice, healthy, physiological foundation for our nervous system, for our awareness, clarity, and having just a little bit more space because we've practiced in comparison to if we would have not, so we can make a choice so that we in our system, no matter if there's stress or pressure, that we can still act consciously. So I really invite you, especially in this situation right now, to get into contact with the floor. This really brings us out of our headspace to feel our breath. Okay, so we are realizing, okay, we have an ability to direct also our awareness with the breath. And because we're getting, with these two techniques, ourselves out of our head and out of our usual behavioral pattern, we are getting more space, becoming more flexible also in our thinking, in our choices. And that's what we actually want and what's useful right now for us in this COVID situation, because so much is changing. And these are really two very important tools so that we can regulate and stabilize ourselves on the deepest level, which is the autonomic nervous system. So that's something that really balances ourselves so we don't get stuck into the sympathetic part of it and are being nervous, and also not bringing us into a very lethargic position where we are in resignation and in a freeze, but we're really swinging nicely back and forth between the two poles of the autonomic nervous system in connection. So whenever you feel there's more stress rising, use these tools, and whoever is interested, look into polyvagal theory. And I say thank you for that you've been here today and that you've been practicing with me together. And I hope that whatever I passed on to you was helpful and allowed your body to expand. Thank you so much for being here. Take all the space that you need so that you can flow on in balance. Have a very, very nice evening. Thank you again for visiting, and until the next one. And enjoy the unfolding nature. Namaste.